Hey everyone, welcome back to Next Up Live. I'm Ben Hawbrooks, your host here at NXTsoft. And if you've watched this before, you know that what we get to do here is we get to look at fintech, cybersecurity, a little bit behind the scenes at what's going on at NXTsoft. And I get to host many of the great people here at our company. So today I have for you Will Blackburn. Will, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Ben. Looking forward to talking.
Absolutely. So, Will is Chief Technology Officer here at NXTsoft, which means he does a lot of stuff. But today we're going to talk about one of those things that's really, really interesting, and that's APIs. And I've titled this How APIs Are Reshaping the World. And that may sound a little melodramatic. I think it's true, though. And Will is going to be the guy to tell us why and how. So, Will, let's start here. APIs. What is it? What is an API and what can they be used for?
Yeah, definitely the right place to start. An API and what it stands for is an application programming interface. And so, that's of course a little bit of a technical term, but really kind of big picture, what it does is it allows for connection between two pieces of software. And so, the way it does this is one, it provides the rule for interacting. So it's essentially kind of what can you do connecting to this other application. And then two, it provides the method for that interaction, which is essentially kind of where and how that specific interaction is going to take place. And so I said, it provides the connectivity between two pieces of software. And really what it's doing is one piece of software is exposing itself in certain functionality or certain data that it has to another piece of another piece of software, another application. So we'd love to kind of launch right into a kind of simple example, if that's okay with you, Ben. Yeah. So our CEO and founder, David Brassfield, was telling me a story not too long ago about, I think it was probably 35 years ago. One of the things one of his first companies did was for small community banks. They would like to show the temperature on their website, and then on the sign, on the side of the road, that they would like to say, hey, it's 70 degrees. And they would use that a lot. So he was telling me that when tellers would pick up the phone, they would say, it's a good morning here at, First Bank. The temperature is 70 degrees. How can we help you? And it's just something that the customers like to hear. And so what the bank would have to do back then is they would have to buy an outdoor thermometer at every bank, at every branch, and they would connect it into their systems. And so one of David's first companies or company he worked for would actually provide that service, and they would go and install these thermometers and use them. And so, now we're in 2020, and luckily every single branch doesn't have to maintain their own outdoor thermometer anymore. And so the way that they get around this is that they use APIs, right? And so, whenever you check the weather, in Birmingham here or wherever you're located, there's thermometers that are out there that are connected to the internet, and applications can talk to those services and say, what's the temperature outside right now? And that's how they get the weather. So that's a way an API works. It's kind of super simple example, but they say, hey, can you give me the temperature right now? And the other application says, sure, it's 60 degrees outside right now.
Yeah, that's a great example. And it's kind of funny thinking back that people used to actually do that, but it makes sense. I don't think people recognize how prevalent APIs are. I mean, they're everywhere. You use them every single day, but it's one of those things that's kind of underneath the surface. I mean, if I'm trying to hail an Uber, or if I'm using something that uses a Google Maps interface, or DoorDash, or a travel aggregator like Kayak, or bookmarking service like Pocket, or something like that, those are all using APIs, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And really kind of the explosion of APIs has happened over the past kind of, really the last 10 years. APIs kind of existed before then. And when we're talking about APIs, we're really talking about kind of web and external APIs. And that allows the connectivity from different systems, just like Ben was given a good example there of, maybe one of the ride sharing apps uses another map service to provide that. And so a company like Uber says, hey, we want to be excellent in providing the ride sharing service, but we don't necessarily want to take on all of the map work, right? To have the most updated maps. And there's other companies who do a great job of that. So we're going to leverage APIs to those other services. And that's how we're going to be able to provide the map functionality for the ride sharing for our customers and our drivers. And so that's a great example of it. And when you think about kind of the benefits of APIs, really, you're looking at in two areas. One is data transfer. So maybe one application has data that another application could use. So it might be consumer data, or it might be application data, right? So the temperature was a good example of kind of that, right? Where they have the data of what the temperature is right now and they want to transfer it. And then the other side of things is extending functionality. And so that map example we just gave is a good example of that, right? They say, okay, we need maps to be able to travel around and stuff. And so that we're going to use APIs to get that functionality.
Sure. So, I appreciate you speaking to the benefits there. I feel like with every new and developing technology, that obviously there are big benefits, but there's also usually some kind of trade-off, some kind of downsides. What can you speak to those? Are there downsides when it comes to APIs?
Yeah, of course. I think, everything good does have the downsides kind of with it, right? So I think one of the latest numbers I saw was that there's over 23,000 web APIs now out there. So, a crazy number of web APIs that are, talking back and forth with each other. And so really kind of the big downside, or kind of challenge that the industry, whoever's using APIs, companies need to be aware of and be addressing is around data and application security risk. And so when you're transferring data from one system to another, right, there's no doubt a security concern there. So, let's say I'm going to send some of the data from my application to another application to be able to get something back, right? So another good example of an API is when a credit card company or your bank checking account wants to be able to show you your credit score. So what they do there is they've tied in with credit bureaus and different companies, and they, with your permission, which you do have to agree to it, you might not notice you do it, but they send some of your information over to those companies to then get back your credit score, to get back where you're at. And so just like that, they're sending some of your information away. And so they need to make sure that they're only doing that with good trusted parties and that information is securely being sent. So data security is one big thing. The other is when you're opening up applications with APIs, you got to make sure that you only open up what you need to open up, right? So, maybe that company that's providing the credit scores has a lot more information, that they have in their database. They need to make sure that they're only sending back the credit score, right? They're not sending back other data that you as a consumer haven't allowed them to send back.
Yeah. Well, this really hits our sweet spot here at NXTsoft because we are both a cybersecurity company and a fintech company. So we've kind of this is where these two things converge. How, what's NXTsoft doing that kind of tries to solve this problem of, have an API opening up access to resources, but also maintaining some, proper sense of security and control?
That's right. Yeah. So three quick things I want to touch on around API security. The first one is around authentication. And this is who are you and can you use this API, right? That's number one. Whenever you're using an API, you have to say who you are and whether or not you can access the API. The second one is authorization. And that's okay. Now that I know who I am, right, what am I allowed to do? So you might have person A who can do 5 different things, but person B should only be able to do one thing, right? And so you need to make sure that with your APIs you lock that down. And so we use APIs every day, especially on the fintech side of things. And so with that, we make sure that that process is being handled correctly. And then the third piece is around continuous monitoring. And so we monitor all the API usage, and we see who's doing what, who's calling what. And we make sure that only people who should be looking at the APIs and accessing them are doing that. And that's kind of the third way we're able to do that. We've created a product called Omni Alert, where we're able to monitor API usage and report back on that.
Excellent. Thanks, Will. We'll leave a link to that, what you mentioned below, probably under this video. But I appreciate your time, and that's been really edifying for me. So hopefully for the rest of anyone who's viewing. But anyway, Will,
Yeah.
have a good day. I appreciate you joining me. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ben. It's been fun. Appreciate it. Bye.